Okay, so we have Mr. Graham McGregor, our MPP from Brampton North, with us, and he's parliamentary secretary as well. Mr. Gregor is doing lots of things for his constituency, for his riding. We talk to him time to time, but today he's going to make a very special announcement. His riding or Brampton is getting major chunk of a funding which has recently been announced. First of all, Mr. McGregor, thank you so much for talking to us.
Oh, thank you, Rajinder, and thank you to the audience for listening. Sat Shri Akal, Namaskar, Assalamu Alaikum. Hope your audience is doing well.
Wonderful. And what's this special announcement? Tell us more about that.
I'm very excited to announce, when I first ran for office, and I remember even you talking to me when I was running for office, I promised that I would fight to bring investments into Brampton North and bring investments into my community. And I'm very happy to report that through some of this work this week, we announced with the Ontario Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, an investment of $2.5 million into the Etobicoke Creek and Loafers Lake. What this money is going to be for is around preserving our ecosystem. We're doing a complete restoration of the Loafers Lake shoreline, as well as tackling some of the invasive species and planting 6,500 trees along Conservation Drive to not only protect the environment for wildlife and for nature and biodiversity, but also to build a better neighborhood and invest in our community for the residents of the neighborhood that are going to be able to get out and enjoy the nature.
Wonderful. I remember there was a small amount of funding earlier as well. But
yeah, so last year we were happy. We got species at risk funding about $75,000. And it was funny, that announcement, to tell you, I'll give your audience a little bit of a sneak peek into how the sausage is made and what we do as MPPs. So when we got that investment, I remember telling the Ministry of the Environment team at the time and telling people here at Queen's Park, watch what we can do with a small investment because I'm going to come back and I'm going to ask for a bigger one. And, yourself, many other community media types came out, covered the announcement. The community was very excited about it. We had many of our neighborhood groups come out. And by doing that well and showing the minister a good time when they came down last year for the $75,000, it really helped us build the case and build the argument for the investment this time around, the $2.5 million. I also...
Go ahead. Sorry about that. This is 1 year funding?
Yes. So this is, I would think of this almost like environmental capital funding. So the improvements that we're making, Loafers Lake is a kind of man-made lake that originally was a quarry, some decades ago. And the shoreline is really using that outdated technology. So not only was the shoreline kind of the best that we had in the 1970s, but it also has experienced significant wear and tear. So what we're doing is completely restoring the shoreline there. We're tackling some of the invasive species like Phragmites. So we have species that don't belong in our ecosystem that end up eating up other plants and animals and that kind of thing. So we're investing in that. And then we're also putting in a lot of natural features around flood mitigation as well. So the trees, the bioswales that we're putting in, that's going to prevent anybody that lives by a river knows that when it's heavy rainfall, we can see flooding, and Etobicoke Creek and Loafers Lake is no different. So with some of these natural features that we're going to be putting in, we're actually going to be mitigating the flooding on the trail so that residents will be able to enjoy nature all year round.
Wonderful. Okay. So during last election, 413 was a big issue, and Ford government promised that for sure they're going to construct this highway. Where we stand on that now?
So we are building the Highway 413. That is getting done, and that commitment hasn't changed. One of the hurdles that we're trying to overcome, Rajinder, and I'm glad you asked, is actually something called a federal impact assessment. So the federal government has this tool, the federal impact assessment. It's the same study, frankly, that they use when we want to build a nuclear power plant. And they have declared an interest on the Highway 413, which is a little confusing because they've never used this tool to prevent the construction of a provincial highway before the Highway 413. So if you look at We have lots of highways in Ontario, highways 401, 412, 418, 427, 403. I could go on and on and on and on. None of those highways have ever had a federal impact assessment, but for some reason, when Brampton wants a bypass highway around the 413, the federal environment minister, Stephen Guilbeault, has declared this assessment. So we're working through that. I want to reassure your viewers, we're not allowing that to stop us. We will get the Highway 413 built, but it certainly has presented a challenge and led to us not getting construction underway as quickly as we'd like. But rest assured, this is something we're diligent on. We're working with our federal partners, and we will get it done.
Any timeline is in your mind? I mean, I understand it's not in the hands of Fort government or provincial government, but still, you think any timeline?
Look, I'll be honest. I want this highway done yesterday, and I think many of your viewers do as well. What I can say is when the highway is built, it'll save a commuter traveling that route between 401 and the 400 30 minutes on their trip. It's going to be about $500 billion in GDP output that we're putting into the economy as well. Thousands of construction jobs. It's going to be good for families. It's going to be good for truck drivers. It's going to be good for commuters. And it's part of our strategy around getting Brampton moving. Getting around the city is not as easy as it used to be. It seems like the NDP and the Liberals don't want to build any roads. They don't want to build any highways. They're fighting us every day here at Queen's Park to try to stop us. But we know that this is what residents want, and we are very committed to getting the project done.
Okay, talking about NDP, they have brought in a motion that truckers should not be charged on 407 toll route. They said it should be toll free. So would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually are passing a law right now that the NDP are voting against to ban tolls on any publicly owned highway. And these are highways that the government owns. So if you'll recall, one of the moves that Doug Ford and the PC government, our government, made was to get rid of the tolls on Highway 412 and 418. And we faced opposition at the time from the NDP and the Liberal Party particularly, all voted against it, which is a bit of a head scratcher. Now, the 407 is not government owned. So we don't control what happens on that highway. That's owned by private companies, the CPP Investment Board, et cetera, et cetera. What we are committed to doing is building more public highways like the Highway 413, like the Bradford Bypass, and expanding our existing highways similar to the Highway 401. I guess when you hear this kind of rhetoric, and we've noticed the Liberals have been very quiet about it, and I almost got to wonder that I think the Liberals seem to believe in highway tolls. They're the ones that brought the highway tolls in on the 412 and 418. I guess what we can assume is that they certainly are against the Highway 413 and building it. But even if it was built, it sounds like they might want to toll it. I want to reassure the viewers, PC government, we will get it done by building the Highway 413. It will not be tolled. It will be a publicly funded, publicly owned highway.
Okay, so basically you are saying that it's a private owned highway now. So government has no control, no intervention on that. Okay, coming back to the point, my question before you go. Recently, federal government had made lots of announcements regarding the international students. And one of them was, number one, that all these educational institutions, they have to ensure that any student coming here, they guarantee or they provide the accommodation. So your comment on that first.
Yeah, first I'd say, we heard from our own Ontario Minister of Colleges and Universities that she was taken aback by the announcement. We didn't receive a heads up. This was something the federal government kind of dumped on us. And so we're still assessing the impact. Is a complicated sector. We're assessing the impact. I would say something I hear from residents often is we have a world-class education system here in Ontario that people are proud of. It's no secret that people want to come live here and study here, but we have a responsibility as a society that when somebody comes to Canada, they give up or they spend their life savings, sometimes their family, to send somebody over to Canada. They deserve better than in many cases what international students are getting. We have cases where there's 20 students living in the basement of a home. You have students sleeping in cold cellars. You have students that are, both sleeping on the floor in the same room, and all kinds of stories like this. I don't think, Rajinder, that this would be the way that any of us would find acceptable for our own kids to be living. I don't think this is an acceptable way for us to assume that international students are living these in an equitable way of life. So that's our government's focus and our priority, and certainly something I hear from my residents and what I fight for.
Okay, there's a mushrooming of these private colleges, private funded colleges. Recently, we have seen no building, no proper infrastructure. Now, federal government is saying that it is responsibility of the province, where any province will be given a particular number of study permit visas. So it will be their responsibility to bring in students here. So we are still not much clear about this announcement, when it's going to be implemented, how it's going to be implemented.
Well, I wish I had more clarity for you. Like I said, the Minister of Colleges and Universities in Ontario basically found out when the public found out about the cap on international students in the first place. I mean, this is something that wasn't really done with consultation for the provinces. This is something we are certainly taken aback from. Look, we as MPPs, we've got a great working relationship with our federal counterparts, obviously. These are issues that we can work through. We certainly hope to. I think what I would say to the audience, and what I think viewers should take home, is that we are committed to preserving and protecting and enhancing Ontario's world-class education system and our world-class reputation. We also see loud and clear the problems that we have with a lot of students that are coming to Canada and not really having the quality of life and that Canadian dream that people used to rely on. These are very major, serious challenges, work that we take very seriously. We've set out from the Ontario side to have a kind of formal response to the waivers declaration from the federal government by March 31st. So I look forward to being able to tell you more about it. But I want to rest assured to the viewers, this is something that we are definitely tasked with, and something we're working toward, and we are doing the best that we can for Ontario families.
Okay. Last thing before you go, I interviewed Mr. Maninder Sidhu, Member of Parliament, Brampton East, day before yesterday. He said that recently federal government has made an announcement of $110 million for the to tackle with a crime going on all over Ontario. But he said that if you can bring to the notice of MPPs from Brampton that Peel should get their fair share. So I hope you are aware of that. Or, I mean, we know that crime is rapidly on rise in Peel, and particularly in Brampton, car theft, carjacking, lots of things we are seeing every day. So I interviewed Peel Police Chief also a few months back. Even he was saying that I need more funding, more resources. So I hope this federal funding should come some good chunk to Peel as well.
Absolutely, and I appreciate the comments from MP Sidhu. I've always found him to be a good guy with his heart in the right place. So I appreciate that. What I would say, what we really need the federal government to do, and if the federal government really wanted to help Peel, and I know they do, I know their heart's in the right place. They really need to get some scanners and start inspecting some of the cargo that goes in at the CN intermodals and at the Port of Montreal. We have so many stolen cars that, they're out of the country within, less than a day. And these are organized, very organized, very technically sound criminal organizations. We were talking to the Peel Police about this. I think the price tag for some of these scanners that they could put at some of these points of entry, $3.5 million, $4 million, it's not massive sums of money that it would take. And I think that would be a very positive step forward. The other thing that we've been desperately asking the federal government for is bail reform. You have the same criminal that gets put in jail 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9 times, and they're out the next day committing the same crime over and over and over. And I think Peel Police and all of our provincial police forces, they do a wonderful job and an excellent job of catching the bad guys and putting them in jail. But we rely on our justice system and the criminal code to make sure that the criminals stay in prison. So that's been the message from the Premier to the federal government. This is no surprise. We've been lobbying for this for years now. It's time to get tough on crime and crack down on some of these dangerous criminals that are plaguing our streets.
Well, Mr. McGregor, it's always an honor to talk to you, and you are voice of your residents, and you're trying your best to bring as much as funding possible for the residents. Thank you so much, and anything you want to say at the end? I know Brampton is the fastest growing city. It has its own issues. Federal, provincial, municipal, all kind of governments are dealing with those issues. But your message at the end?
Yeah, just look, both shukriya, both tanwad. Always very grateful for you having me on the show. Grateful for the viewers and the audience for listening in. When it comes to getting local investment in the community, this is the job I applied for when I ran for MPP. I'm just very grateful that it's been working, and rest assured I'm going to continue working every single day to bring investment into the riding, exactly what the residents expect, and rightfully so, what the residents of Brampton North deserve.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor, and we'll talk to you soon again, very soon. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Rajinder. Take care.
Bye-bye.